All right, we will begin the Murray City Planning Commission meeting for May 2nd. Thank you all for participating tonight. Before we begin, I'd introduce a few people to you. Up here, the commissioners, starting at your right, are Scott Woodbury, Maren Patterson, Phil Markham, myself, Ned Hacker, Sue Wilson, Lisa Melkavik, and excused this evening is Travis Ney. And with us for staff, we have Jim McNulty up in front, and at the table here in front, Jared Hall and Zach Smallwood, and against the wall in the back, Brian Farnsworth. So with that, we've had relatively small groups tonight. However, if you have electronic devices, we'd ask that you turn them off or turn them down, as well as the commissioners. Let me check if I'm turned off. If you have a call, we'd ask you that you take it out in the hallway and not disrupt the other people participating. And if you want to make a public comment this evening, ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes if you're speaking for yourself, and if you're speaking for a group, to comments to 5 minutes. So with that, we'll move into our agenda. First agenda item, number 1, is approval of meeting minutes from Murray Planning Commission meeting held on April 18th. Have all commissioners had an opportunity to read those minutes? Do you have any comments, corrections?
No.
All right.
They look great.
Good. You have a motion to...
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from the Thursday, April 18th, 2019 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
Mr. Chair, can I second that motion?
Motion and a second. Any additional discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Minutes pass. Second item is a conflict of interest. Any commissioners have conflict of interest with any of the agenda items?
No.
All right. Thank you. And agenda item number 3, approval of findings of fact. We have 3 of those. Have you had, commissioners, had opportunity to review those findings of fact?
Yes.
Yes.
Any comments toward those? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the findings of fact for the 3 items on our agenda: a conditional use permit for True North at 604 East Taylor Lane, a conditional use permit for Auto Image at 4265 South, 300 West, and a conditional use permit for Shake Shack at Fashion Place Mall, 6123 South, State Street.
All right. I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second. Oh, you got it. You got it, Sue. It's yours.
I'll second.
All right. Motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. That passes. And we'll move on to the agenda item number 4, which is EOS Fitness, which is requesting a conditional use permit to allow a fitness club to be located at the property address 5550 South 900 East. Is applicant here this evening? Okay, we'll have you come up in a little bit. And we're going to have staff report by Zach Smallwood.
Good evening, commissioners. Tonight we're reviewing a conditional use application for EOS Fitness. It's located here on 5550 South, 900 East in the old Sports Authority, Gart Sports, some sort of grocery store or something before that. I don't know. So there's a few there. It is located in the CD zone, which allows gyms through a conditional use permit. It is going to be a 47,000 square foot gym. They're proposing to be open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, except for some minor holidays and things like that. So here I have shown some pictures of the current landscaping. One of the issues that staff has seen is that they have provided a landscape plan, but it doesn't quite meet the landscaping ordinance. So we request that they work with us to bring forward an acceptable landscaping plan that updates everything. Here are some photos of the existing site. They are proposing to remove those little turrets, so it doesn't look so much like a castle. Even though I think that's kind of cool.
It was called the Sports Castle.
There you
Zach.
go. So, so that's the front of the building. This is the back. I found that there was no garbage enclosure, so we are requiring that as per our ordinance. So here is an existing layout of the facility. It's pretty open. It was a retail space. And then the proposed floor plan. I'll go over a couple things here. They're going to have a 24,000 square foot open gym area around here. They're going to have a fairly large pool, half court basketball court, cardio room, and they're also going to have a small daycare facility for people that bring their children in as well.
Perfect.
They are proposing, like I mentioned, they're going to take down the little turrets and just pretty much do some painting and to bring it into kind of their color schemes, things like that. Here's where I mentioned the existing or the proposed landscape plan. They made an attempt at it, and so I just have them work with me on getting that complete. As we started doing last week, just let you guys know, kind of reiterate what conditional uses are per state code. They are uses that are permitted as long as the Planning Commission can determine that any potential negative impacts are mitigated. So with that, staff is recommending approval for this conditional use permit, subject to the 9 conditions laid out before you. Are there any questions for me right now?
Are there other conditions? I think there's 12.
Yeah, there is a second page.
Yep.
Oh, that's my bad. So yes, I'm sorry.
Wrote
The
it.
12 conditions then.
So for the audience, there's actually 12 conditions, 3 of which aren't.
Yep. So I will,
So here.
if you would like me to, I can read them out. It's up to you guys, though.
Why don't you read them, Zach? That'd be
Okay.
good.
So condition 10 is the property shall comply with landscaping standards outlined in Chapter 17.68 of the Murray City Land Use Ordinance. The applicant and property owner shall work with Planning Division staff to provide and implement an appropriate landscape plan. Number 11 is the applicant shall obtain a sign permit prior to the installation of any attached business signage. And number 12, the applicant shall obtain a Murray City business license, including a building inspection as part of the process, and pay applicable fees prior to commencing operations at this location.
Great, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Any questions for staff?
No.
All right. The applicant, come forward, please. And state your name and your address for the record.
Hi, my name is Arthur Babcock with EOS Fitness, 1 East Washington, Phoenix, Arizona.
And have you had an opportunity to review the conditions that we've gone over?
We have.
And will you be able to comply with those
Yes, we will.
conditions? All right. Do you have anything else to add to the staff report?
I think we're good. I appreciate your time and consideration and look forward to being a part of the community.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So I will open this agenda item for public comment. Would anyone like to comment on this particular item? All right, seeing none, I'll close public comment and bring discussion up to the commissioners for any questions or.
Mr. Chairman, the only comment I'd like to make is that I'm very excited to see this building come back into a beneficial use for our community. It's been there a long time. In fact, it's been there so long. In 1973, that was the first place that I ever worked for a paycheck. So, and it wasn't new when I worked there either. So it had been there a few years. So it's just nice to see this area come back and be an asset to the community. So thank you.
Any other comments from commissioners? All right, I'll entertain a motion regarding this item.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve a conditional use permit to allow a fitness club at the property addressed 5550 South 900 East, subject to the 12 conditions in the report.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And is there any other discussion? Jared, would you call a vote?
Ms. Patterson,
Yes.
Mr. Woodbury,
Yes.
Mr. Markham,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Lukavich,
Yes.
Mr. Hecker.
Yes. All right. So
Smooth.
I would
He doesn't
echo
care about the dramatic effect like you do, Zach.
Commissioner Markham's comment. It's great to see that building be back in use. So thank you, and we look forward to using your new facility in the future.
Good luck.
Great, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right, agenda item number 5, Renaissance Services requesting a conditional use permit to allow for an asphalt contracting sales office to be located at the property addressed 6170 South, 380 West, unit number 200. So is applicant here for that particular? Okay, we'll have you come up in a little bit, and Jared or Zach is going to provide the report on this item.
Perfect. So, like you had stated, Chair, this is for an asphalt contractor sales office located off of Stratler Street, close to 380 West. Contractors are allowed conditionally in the MG zone, which is our manufacturing industrial zone. They are proposing to go into the above highlighted in red here, this unit located in that. That works. So in that unit there, it's a fairly straightforward office building. There are 4 units, I believe, in that building. They're using Suite 200. They're only going to be use it for office uses. All of their contracting work, like asphalt and things like that, are stored off-site, outside of the city, from what I understand. So the only concerns that staff has at this time is that the property owner enclose a open garage here in this space. You can see it kind of hanging out there. And then also upgrading some of the landscaping.
The dumpster. The dumpster.
Dumpster enclosure, yes. I'm sorry. What did I say?
Garage.
It's been a day. So, yes. Yeah.
usually is.
Garbage. That's what I meant.
There you go.
Dumpster
So,
garage.
yes, thank you.
Garbage,
Yeah,
garage.
dumpster enclosure.
Yes.
There we go.
Yes.
Mr. Zach.
Yes,
What,
Mr. Zach.
What's that blue thing in the ADA parking?
That I do not know. But that's
I
going
got to imagine that's not actually compliant with city ordinance.
probably not.
So, can
These
we
were
do
taken-
something about that?
You most definitely can ask.
Must remove the.
Well, I bet
The
it's
blue
not there.
I'll bet it's not even there. But I'm just curious.
For sure. Yeah, I only stopped by this building once and saw it, and it was an immediate concern. That's why there's a picture of it,
Okay.
to kind of bring attention to it.
Good call.
So
Well, thank you
and
for
that was
doing that
after,
then.
That was after the staff
Yeah.
report was written and everything. So it
may not even still be there, but it's certainly they need to know that they can't put equipment in the ADA parking.
I agree.
So,
Yes. So yeah, that's one thing that I would
Okay.
make mention of as well. Here's just a floor plan for you guys. So like I had stated, there's 4 units in this building. So this is one unit here, and then there's one that mirrors that next on the other side. And then that little hashed area is open. It's public area, common area that houses a break room and restroom facilities. You can kind of see that here on these photos. So again, conditional uses are an allowed use, and as long as we can mitigate those impacts, are required to be approved. So with that, staff is recommending approval, subject to the 8 conditions.
I do have a question.
Ask away.
Zach, it's an office use,
Yes.
okay?
Yep.
And yes, their business is asphalt services.
Mm-hmm.
But if it were mortgage services, would we be here
No.
getting I just don't understand with it just being office and there being no equipment stored there, no processes done other than, business, why this has to come before us.
Just due to the nature of their type of business, they are considered a contracting business.
Okay.
And because of that,
Even though this isn't their central location.
unfortunately, that's the way that our land use table doesn't allow for a lot of interpretation if it's just an office use.
Okay.
It just simply states contractors must go through a
Okay.
conditional.
All right. Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions for the staff? All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Applicant, come forward, please. State your name and your address for the record.
Barney Boynton, 6170 South 380 West, Murray.
And have you had an opportunity to review the conditions?
Yeah,
And are you able to comply with those?
I believe so. We're working with the building owner and we'll get it taken care of, to address it. And I'd
Sure.
like to second Phil's comment. It blew my mind a little bit on what we were having to do, just because it didn't make much sense, but whatever, it's fine and we'll do it.
We
Okay.
appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Do you have anything to add to the staff report?
No, just we appreciate it. And you guys have been on really good and helpful the whole way through, so
Great. Thank you.
thanks.
All right. I will open this item up for public comment. Anyone like to comment regarding this particular item? Seeing none, I'll close public comment and bring it back to the commissioners for additional discussion or a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve a conditional use permit to allow an asphalt contracting sales office on the property located at 6170 South 380 West, Unit 200, subject to conditions 1 through 8.
All right.
Mr. Chair, can I second that motion?
You may have a motion and a second. Is there additional discussion?
Just ditto to what Phil said.
So Jared, please call for the vote.
Mr. Woodbury.
Yes.
Ms. Milkevich.
Yes.
Ms. Wilson.
Yes.
Mr. Mark.
Yes.
Ms. Patterson.
Yes.
Mr. Hacker.
Yes. So motion passes. Good luck to you, and thank you for having your business in Murray.
Yes. Thank you.
And add my ditto to what Phil said.
All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 6, which is a text amendment for indoor farming, requesting an amendment to the standard land use code, as well as a text of the CD, Commercial Development, and MG, Manufacturing General zoning districts of the Murray City Land Use Ordinance to include indoor farming.
So this is a request for text amendment. It's not staff generated. We actually received an application from Mr. Kim, who wants to do indoor farming in the city. We did not have, upon looking through our codes, any categories for indoor agriculture in any zones. So that's why the twofold part of the application. First, we need to create a definition, if the commission and the city council are willing, for indoor farming, and then decide what zones that use would be appropriate for. So that's what we're going to be talking about very briefly. Indoor farming, just by way of information, is exactly what it sounds like. It's agriculture inside. It can be done stacked in trays. There's a million different ways to do this and a million different scales of this kind of an operation. In Mr. Kim's case, he wants to rent or to lease a large warehouse that's going to be empty soon, electrical wholesalers over near 45th South. It happens to be in the CD zone, so his request was CD zoning. We've modified that as a recommendation from staff, which we'll talk about in a moment as well. But his basic premise is to grow, I think mostly lettuce and things like that is the beginning operation. You can grow anything, almost anything indoors, utilizing LED lights and water hydroponic systems. You don't have to use soil. You can recycle the water. You don't need pesticides and herbicides. So there are some real pluses to this kind of agriculture. Doing a little bit of research, there are some real pluses in terms of the environment and in terms of production ability, which is an important thing for all of us. But there are some drawbacks too. If you study a little bit, we're not sure how this is all going to play out exactly in the future or how efficient it's really going to be. But there are some very clear kind of land use points as well that can benefit from this. One of them is adaptive reuse of older buildings. In aging infrastructure in a city like Murray that's getting older, there are inevitably going to be some older warehouses that aren't being well utilized. This is a chance, another potential user for those. And anytime we get a new user, we get a conditional use and we upgrade properties and we have a good clean use. It creates jobs that don't otherwise exist. It doesn't pilfer them from other sectors. These are new jobs. It also it helps in areas to provide fresh food year-round because you can grow 365 days a year. It allows us to have fresh food for restaurants for us. That's good for economic development. And it allows fresh food for people that don't have access to it in other ways, too. Some of the reasons that we want to suggest it in some of the zones that we want to suggest it in is because it would allow that population that maybe doesn't have as good an access to transportation and doesn't always have good access to grocery stores to have some access to fresh food. Mr. Kim's proposal will be, if we actually adopt something like this, to produce for restaurants and for grocers, but also to run kind of a farmer's market out of the front part of it several times a week in limited ways. This is the property, and it does this to me once in a while. That should be, it takes the color out of it, but this is CD zoning, so you'd be seeing a lot of red and some other, this kind of ruins my point. I was going to show the different zones that wouldn't be allowed, that we're not suggesting that be allowed in, but we'll come back to that anyway. Or maybe on one of the other slides it'll be possible. Nope, not going to be, because this is the zoning slide and it's not showing the colors, but it's CD zoning, the area where he wants to go. We're recommending that we create an allowance. We create a definition for this, and we'll read that in a second, and that definition be allowed as a conditional use permit with conditional use approval in the CD zone, in the manufacturing general zone, the MG zone, the mixed use zone, the TOD zone, and the BP, business park zone. This one will let us do that a little bit. So you can see.
Let us?
Thank you, Scott.
Just for you.
I
Scott's
appreciate
awake.
it. I was feeling a little severe, so thanks.
I know you were.
So you've got all this area down the corridor of the city, the CD zoning, the MG zone. Sections of the city we've identified to be business park zoning also might be able to allow this use as well. They have some older segments of the city, and in redevelopment, we'd want to have this be a potential use. This is the area where Mr. Kim is proposing to do the indoor farming. This is a warehouse area attached to electrical wholesalers. Atwood Boulevard's up here. Most of you are probably familiar with the back side of it. I know I was. This is the back side that you can see. You're looking basically at this corner of the building. And then the front side, looking sort of southeast at the front of the building where electrical wholesalers is. This zoning is CD. Immediately east of it, there's some residential zoning, there's some office zoning. Those aren't zones where we would allow this, or where we would recommend allowing it. Before we talk about the findings, I wanted to read, just for the record, the definition that we're proposing for indoor farming. That be added to our, if I can turn to it here real quickly, that this be added to as a definition to our standard land use code as 8121. That's an agricultural category, the 8100s. Indoor farming includes crops grown wholly indoors for commercial distribution to other locations and or retail sale on site. One of the questions in the pre-meeting was, do we want to add other conditions to that? Do we want to, in the definition, do we want to control for heights? Do we want to control for pesticide use? Do we want to write in reviews for water and things like that, water use, electrical use? We opted not to do that, or not to recommend that to you all, because the conditional use permit would review those and it would vary based on the scale and the scope of the operation and the nature of the operation. Like I said, there can be wholly inside with only LED lights. There can be some that are using greenhouses. There can be some that are using limited soil, some using no soil. We don't want to try to control for all of that in the definition. We'd rather use the conditional use permit. So that's the reason for that. And then again, we want to list the mixed use zone, manufacturing general zone, commercial development zone, transit-oriented development zone, and business park zone. Transit-oriented development and mixed use, because those are the areas where we're going to have a chance to, if this becomes a popular thing in the future, and indications are that over the next 10 years it is going to become a thing, we could put those growing areas, that grocery availability close to population centers in the city. So that would be a good idea. We did make several findings. We do feel like, as staff, this presents an opportunity to support adaptive reuse. It supports a lot of goals of the general plan by reducing the necessity of trips. From the business end, it reduces what are called food miles. The fewer miles you have to transport produce to its end users, the better off you are. The less refrigeration it uses over time, the less chance you have for spoilage. 30% or something of all the crops are lost in transport and storage. It represents an opportunity to have a positive impact on public health, like we talked about, and then finally that it can have an impact on our local economy, providing jobs and fresh local produce for restaurants and for grocers. We are recommending that the Planning Commission forward this with a positive recommendation to the council, that we adopt that land use definition that we read into the record and then in these particular zones. Do you have any questions for staff at this time? Thanks.
Any commissioners? I do.
Okay,
Don't leave.
I'll stay right.
So, Jared, I don't know all of the zones allowed in the MCCD.
Yeah, so the MCCD zone is notably missing from our list. The reason being because it's the downtown zone. It should be more of a retail area than any of these other zones, and it has complications because of the nature of the design guidelines that impact it more than the others. So,
What if a restaurant were to locate there and say they wanted to grow some vegetables on the back half of their building and that?
my assumption is that a lot of restaurants are already doing that. Microgreens get grown, and growing vegetables outdoors in their backyard area to feed it, to use
That's
in their
no big
restaurants, that
deal.
wouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
It's the mass scale, the distribution of it, that we really wanted to create a definition for.
Okay.
Like we mentioned in the pre-meeting, we did some benchmarking. A lot of other cities, Salt Lake City, South Salt Lake, I'm going to forget the other ones.
Sandy.
Yeah, they don't have anything that prohibits people doing this, and so they would allow it just under their normal agricultural uses. We don't list any agricultural production for distribution uses in our manufacturing
Okay.
zones, our retail zones, so we kind of needed to add it.
Okay.
But we wouldn't have a problem with a restaurant wanting to grow their own greens a little bit, or microgreens for that matter.
When I was thinking of the new parking structure that's proposed,
Yeah.
of which could be a perfect place to have a narrow and long vertical facility that might be perfect
is-
for something like this.
That is true.
Or rooftop gardens. Yeah.
Or even skinned gardens on the sides. That's possible.
And I think that's something we can come back and take a look at if
All right.
something
Okay.
like that
Good.
becomes available.
Yeah.
All right, great. Any other questions for staff? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Will the applicant come forward? State your name and your address, please, for the record.
Hi, my name is Chihan Kim from 158 East, 4500 South, Murray, Utah.
And have you had an opportunity to review the wording and the findings and
Yes, I have
the
in
recommendations that the staff has produced? Do you have anything to add to the discussion?
No.
Okay.
He prepared very well, so I like what
You
he
helped
did.
him, I'm sure.
That's his job.
All right. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Kim, I have a question for you. Have you done this in other areas before? I mean, I'm really excited to have it, potentially come to Murray. I'm
No,
just
I
curious.
never, but I studied a lot. Also, I am leaving to Korea and China to collect all the materials to build this the plant factory. In Asia, we call it a plant factory. So I'm leaving tomorrow morning at 6 a.m.
Wow.
Wow.
Very nice.
And so will you be growing a lot of things native to Asia, or?
Yeah, the vegetables, the consumed in Asia, consumed here too,
Right. Yeah, I love Chinese and Asian food and Thai and
I'm also going to grow strawberry, Strawberry is most pesticide contaminated, because of the surface, So strawberry will be one of the best item to grow without pesticide.
Oh, that's cool.
That's neat.
That's very cool.
Well, that's very exciting. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And good luck on your travel. So,
All right, I will open this item for public comment.
that's cool.
Anyone like to make comment regarding this agenda item? Seeing none, I will close public comment and bring it back up to the staff for any additional discussion or a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council for a text amendment adding land use category 8121 indoor farming to the Murray City Standard Land Use Code and adding land use 8121 to sections 17.146.040 MU Mixed Use Zone, 17.152.030 MG Manufacturing General Zone, 17.160.030 CD Commercial Zone, 17.168.050 F TOD Transit Oriented Development Zone, and 17.173.030 BP Business Park Zone of the Murray City Land Use Ordinance as proposed by Community Development staff in this report.
I'll second that.
Scott, could you repeat that? I didn't quite hear the.
I would be happy to. For the record, just kidding.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? So Jared, will you call a vote, please?
Mr. Woodbury.
Yes.
Mr. Markham.
Yes.
Ms. Patterson.
Yes.
Ms. Wilson.
Yes.
Ms. Milkavich.
Yes.
Mr. Hacker.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I would say to the applicant, we are all really excited about this. This is really cool. So we will watch and
I want to come on a tour when it's open
Me too.
there will be a lot of us that
and
would
try
like that.
samples of the
So,
strawberries.
Good luck and safe travels back to
Yeah, 3-hour tour.
Asia.
Thank you. I will, when we have opening house, and I will
Perfect.
Wonderful.
Very cool.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
fresh air producer.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I would go to that. That'd be cool.
And moving on to agenda item number 7, Sunny Vines rezone, requesting approval for an amendment to the Murray City zoning map for the property addressed 770 East Vine Street from R18 Single Family Residential 8,000 square foot lot minimum to R16 Single Family Residential 6,000 square foot lot minimum. So applicant here tonight. Okay, great. Thank you. We'll have you up in a little bit. And Jared is going to give us staff report.
Thank you. As you said, this is a zone map amendment request for the property, 770 East Vine. The property's highlighted right here, just 5600 south to the north, and the church lot there, probably recognizable. This request for zone change, I want to get into the multiple buildings on the property first, so that when I say rear building and duplex, you all know what I'm talking about. So the front, the property has a duplex, non-conforming, legal but non-conforming duplex on the front, and in the back there's this rear building. The property owners requested the use of that building for a dwelling unit, to license it as a rental unit, and the staff's answer was that they could not do that, and this request is a result of that conversation. The zoning, as we show here, is R18. That third unit was not anticipated with that the status of the duplex that you can still see there through the zoning. That third unit was not something that was approved. We can't locate building permits for it or any permissions for it to be used, so we couldn't establish its legal but non-conforming use the way that we were able to for the duplex. The applicants then thought if they were to rezone, or if they were to subdivide it with a flag lot subdivision, they could use it legally, and the staff's response was that there were too many variances associated with that. We wouldn't be able to appropriately flag lot subdivide that. They felt like if they rezoned it to R16, it would reduce some of those needs for variance. So I want to go over some of those things in the staff report here. So this is R18 zoning, as I mentioned. R16 zoning goes up Whispering Pine Drive here, these twin homes that run up toward Ballantor, which you can just see the edges of Ballantor right there. So there is some R16 zoning in the area. However, the good solid block right all around the existing property is R18 zoning, so it would be kind of an intrusion into that zone. One of the other concerns that staff had was that this is the future land use map that governs the kinds of zones that ought to be applied if zone changes are requested. Low-density residential is the category, that is the designation, and that does support R16, R18, R110, and on up the line. So both of those designations, both the existing and the proposed, are supported by the future land use map. However, as we stated before, you have all these twin homes running east, and my finger's not working anymore. Running east, you have all these twin homes. They're actually in the medium density category now, but they are twin homes, that land use pattern, independent of this kind of zoning suggestion. The pattern in this area is decidedly not so. Single family uses, with the exception of this non-conforming duplex. So in that way, it does not, the R16 is less appropriate than the R18 in that one important way. And changing the zoning of this one parcel would represent kind of an isolated piece of R16 zoning. That's one reason that we don't support the rezone. The other is that the purposes behind the attempt at rezone conflict with the purpose of the general plan. So the purpose of that R16 or R18, all of those zones supported by that low-density residential category, is to create and preserve this detached single-family feel at different densities, obviously, but a detached single-family feel. The purpose of the zone change, the intent of the zone change, is to create a situation where a third dwelling unit on what is essentially the same lot becomes usable, where the lot is already a legal but non-conforming lot. So we feel like since that's in support of that goal, it doesn't really match up with the general plan's goals either. This is a shot of the house, the duplex in front, looking west across Vine Street. You can see the rear building we've talked about back here. Just want to go over some of the needs for variances that also give us pause in, that would give us pause in recommending approval of this. So you can see the existing non-conforming duplex. It is right up against the south property line. That would require, if we go through a subdivision process as a result of a zone change, or even without a zone change, that would be one of the first things that would require a variance. We have to make all those things conform in that event. We don't get to go through a subdivision process for a legal but non-conforming lot. We have to bring things into conformance. We can't physically without hacking off part of the building, so that would require a variance. And that's better seen right here, actually. You can see the fence line representing the property line. You can see it right there as well. This rear building, if the intent is to create a lot that would house that rear building with a flag lot, it would need to be right in back of that duplex building, so that would require a rear yard setback as well. The building itself, if we make this not an outbuilding, not an accessory building, but a building on its own lot, it would require a rear yard variance, a side yard variance on the north side, and a front yard variance because it's closer than the requisite 25 feet from the building in front of it. So there's, by my count, at least a half a dozen variances that would still be necessary even with the 6,000 square foot lot. The one thing it does have going for it is we do have the 28 feet that we'd need to get to a rear lot. Aside from that, pretty much nothing. So we can't, as a staff, recommend that this would be a good zone change or one that complies with or that matches up with the goals of the general plan. And we have recommended denial based on the findings, 1 through 4 here, and that they basically restate the things that I've just said. Do you have any questions for staff at this point?
I have one, Jared. If you go back a few slides.
You want one more?
Yeah, one more. Are residential allowed to have dumpsters on their property like that?
No.
Typically, no.
And would it have to be screened in?
Since they're not allowed, no.
Okay.
We don't have a screening ordinance for residential properties
because they
with dumpsters,
can't have
they're
them.
not allowed on a single family
Okay.
property, no.
Yeah, I was just
Too large.
just trash cans is all you can have,
Right.
and then obviously you can have the big dumpsters that come in,
Right.
on a just a temporary basis for projects, not a standard dumpster.
Right.
Was there a commercial use or anything of this building before? You look at the.
Not that I'm aware of.
If you go to the next picture, Jared, and on the upper right, it looks as if that's a garage there.
This building?
That like a semi would back up to and.
Yeah, that's a good.
Unload
that's a
things.
good
So
point. I
do
don't
we-
honestly know.
We don't know what the traditional use has been for that building.
I don't know where that building came from or
Okay.
what its use was.
All right, thank you.
Jared, would the utilities have to be separated on this
Yes.
building as well?
If it were separated into new lots, into different lots, then yes, we'd need to
Okay,
separate.
and we don't know if they are currently separated or if they're operating off the main house?
don't. I
Okay,
don't
I
know.
can
I would
ask the
assume-
applicant.
That I don't know, yes. Anything else for staff?
No, not for me. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So applicant, would you come forward and state your name and your address for the record, please?
Yeah. Brian Muriel, 1819 East, 2100 South, Salt Lake.
And have you had an opportunity to read the findings and recommendations for the staff? And
I have briefly.
okay, do you have anything else to add to the staff report?
I guess not add to this staff report, just more of a curiosity. If this does get denied, is there anything that we can do with that back lot building? Or what would you want us to do with the property?
Could be
Yeah.
a garage.
And I don't know if that's
Well, to,
for us to
maybe staff can
discuss
address it.
tonight, however.
That's not
Well-
before us this
Okay.
evening.
Well,
What we have before us is a rezoning.
Okay.
Okay.
but to the point, which would apply to what we're saying, it's non-compliance, it would remain non-compliant. if it wasn't passed.
We'll let staff answer that. They'll come back to that there and answer your question. That's correct.
Anything else you'd like to present to us?
No, but to answer Phil's question, yeah, that whole back building has its own metering and gas attached to that whole thing. So when the previous owner was building that, I think they had the intention to split that into a duplex because it's two separate electric meters. And so there's a top part and then there's a bottom part to that. So.
All right.
That's
Okay,
it.
thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Would you like to answer a little bit there, Jared?
I can address it, sorry. I can address it at least a little bit, and it's something that the Planning Commission can't really address. What we want, and it's a common question, we get it as staff all the time, well, what do you want me to do with this building? What do you want me to do with this property? We don't necessarily want anything. We'd like the property to be in compliance. And if there were a way for us to go through some kind of zone change that would allow that would be supportable and would make it compliant, we would certainly want to support doing that. We don't see one in this case. So the likely outcome, if it's denied, well, let me walk you through one more thing. If it were approved, let's take it the other direction. If the Planning Commission were to recommend approval and the City Council were to follow suit and recommend approval and zone this R16, it would in no way make it easier for us to get the property subdivided. I need 6 variances, and I know not any of you have been on the hearing, done the hearing officer thing for the city, but none of these variances would qualify for hardship under the state code's rules. We have to find that there's something unique about the geography of this property that won't allow them to meet the normal setbacks or different rules that they're asking variances from. It can't come, by the state code's definition, it can't come from what we call the built environment, because you built the home too close or you built a home that you weren't supposed to build, and so we're trying to do these things. That doesn't get to qualify. So every one, if not most of those variances would be denied. I wouldn't be able to recommend for those either, and my assumption is the hearing officer would deny them as well. So I don't see a flag lot ever happening here. That would be the way to create a lot for that property, for that third building, would be the way to legitimize it. I do not see, as a staff person, and I look at this stuff all day, every day, sometimes more than I want to remember, I don't see a way to make that happen. That building is going to remain, and it needs to be an accessory structure to the duplex, an accessory structure on the lot, or it needs to be abandoned and removed or something to become compliant. There's not a way to make it compliant in my view. I know that's kind of harsh, but
So a garage use. Like
a garage,
storage garage.
garage or storage or shop space for the duplex. That's the kind of thing that it looks like it was originally constructed as and then converted over the years, perhaps. I don't know because we don't have permits on it either, which is a whole other issue that we'll have to deal with. And these are all things that your administrative staff, that building code, that the building division and the planning division will have to deal with outside of the public realm. If we can find a way to work with that, we will. These kind of things are not uncommon as code compliance issues. So.
I just got one comment. I'm just looking at the county website on the county assessor, and I don't see that building delineated as a unit on that property.
Because there's no permit for it.
Right, so there's.
County's never
I just,
assessed it as a dwelling.
looking at it by Sidwell, all they've got on the county site is the main dwelling.
Right.
They don't have that accessory building, and so there, it's just there's too many
Because it was never legally permitted.
problems.
If I remember correctly, the county assessor site doesn't actually recognize the duplex nature of the first building. It recognizes a single unit.
Yeah.
We've recognized it as a duplex. Susan does that research for us, and she is more than thorough, so I don't doubt that it's a legal but non-conforming duplex.
Okay.
But that third building, you're right, we have no records for it, and county doesn't see them either, so that's kind of where we are. I should clarify one other thing, and just for the applicant as well to understand. This is, the Planning Commission tonight would make a recommendation to the City Council. The City Council would make the final determination. If that determination is denial, we are back where we started. The problem that I have, and the reason that we're not recommending approval, is that if the Commission recommended approval and the Council recommended approval, we would kind of be right back where we started anyway. Well, not kind of, we would be.
Right, because it's
We can't really
it
subdivide.
doesn't have the setbacks.
With the
right?
existing buildings in place, we cannot subdivide this property. We can't recommend for
Right, and even if we were to rezone it, it's still not going to have the right setbacks.
Correct.
Okay.
We still need variances we won't be able to get.
Okay.
All right, just for the record, I forgot to open this meeting for public comment, which I will do. anybody would like to comment regarding this agenda item? Yes, sir. Come forward, please, and state your name and your address for the record.
Yeah, my name's Alan Demand. My address is 5693 South, 675 East. If you, yeah, so back one. Okay, so I am basically in that little private lane that my side yard actually backs up to. I've procured a little bit of additional land from the Finlansons when they owned the property. One of the Finlandson grandsons is to the end of the cul-de-sac there, and he and I have both procured the lot next to, from his grandmother, well, from his father, after his grandmother passed. So we have the 3 lots there. We obviously would love to see something done. I think I could probably, at least I know it would be hearsay for all of you, but most of the neighbors there know the history, or at least what's been passed on as history. I knew Luella, and she said, Luella Finlandson, she said the property, unbeknownst to her, was built way back when it was under county rule, and that is on the property line. So, you know, what do we do? And when we bought the property, we knew that. But it is, you know, relative to everything else, somewhat of an eyesore. That doesn't mean the property that I have there on Vine Street isn't a little bit of an eyesore, but we're working to improve that and get it cleaned up. You can check the records of how many green dumpsters we've filled up in the last year and a half. But I've also, and I don't know this young man. I spoke to a previous owner from Chile, and at one point in time we had talked about saying, hey, what can we do as a group to make something happen, or as a group of owners. So I'd like to see something better, but as you've mentioned, it does not fit with everything else in what's been developed. And I think to put a higher density without some kind of at least collaboration there would be a detriment. But I'm also going to say I'd like to see something happen to it. So I don't want it to change, but I think it needs a more definitive plan than to just leave it as is and then rezone it. I think it needs to be addressed in a long-term situation.
All right. Thank you very much. Is there any other public comment regarding this item? Seeing none, I will close public comment and bring it back to the commission for any discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I think an important point for tonight is, you know, as staff has mentioned, there are a lot of issues with this property, and rezoning it may only address 1 or 2 of a multitude of those. And to be very honest with you, rezoning, in my mind, is the last thing that we should do in this particular area to impact that residential neighborhood there. I think it's totally inappropriate. And if that doesn't happen, he can still pursue this. He just has a couple more variances he would have to pursue. We're not shutting the door on him, technically, but he has a long road ahead of him regardless of what happens this evening.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right. I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I would like to make a motion that we forward a recommendation of denial to the City Council for their requested amendment to the zoning map designation for the property located at 770 East Vine Street from R18 Single Family Residential to R16 Single Family Residential.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Jared, will you call a vote, please?
Patterson.
Yes.
Mr. Mark.
Yes.
Mr. Woodbury.
Yes.
Ms. Wilson.
Yes.
yes.
Yes. So I would say to the applicant, so your recommendation has been denied. It'll go to the City Council for their review, and I would suggest that you continue to talk with some of your neighbors who happen to be here tonight, and maybe with the staff as well, to see what else you could perhaps do with your property. So, thank you. All right, that's our last official business item. Is there any other business this evening? No?
Then let's,
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion to adjourn.
I got to mow my lawn.
Thank you. We're adjourned.